The mailman doesn't deliver on a Sunday.
If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Anthony for three. Bang! J.R. Smith! We just saw men fly. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I am Ronan Gaine. Joining me as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this podcast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you like what you're hearing and you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what you're thinking, let us know what we are right about, wrong about. Just get the conversation going. And if you are on the Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave that review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, we'll be giving our thoughts on the Draymond Green suspension, the WWE version of NBA that we saw this week. We'll be talking a few bits around the league, from the Heat's winning run to Tyrese Haliburton's form. We'll also be doing a bit of consoling for Chris and talking about the poor old Chicago Bulls. Where might Zach LaVine end up? Before we get into it, Chris, how are you? Feeling good?
Well, I mean, when you put it that way, I guess I'm feeling good. I don't need consoling. Let me clarify for the people. I'm good. I think I've accepted it. I think it was honestly game 3. I checked out. Like I'll follow the games. I'll see how the Bulls are doing. But I knew you could just tell from the vibe of this team, and I was ready for it. So I'm okay. I'm fine.
Players only meeting after game one is never good, but.
That's how you knew.
That's when you know that's just bad. That's just really not good. But before we go full troll on the Bulls, we won't get into that yet. We'll get into the Draymond choking Rudy Gobert. Ridiculous situation that he got himself in. Ridiculous how it started with Klay Thompson and Jaden McDaniels. 2 minutes into the game, and they're pulling and dragging at each other for, I don't know, maybe there was some previous beef there. I don't know, but then Draymond comes in, puts Gobert in a chokehold. He's gone for 5 games. What do we think about that?
Okay, 2 quick thoughts. First, initially, my hot take is that should you put him in a chokehold? No, definitely not. For sure not. But Gobert also grabbed Klay, and Gobert's a big dude, and it's a quick moment. Gobert comes from behind him, puts his arms around Klay, and they're already in a scuffle. Like usually, like when guys break up fights, they grab their own guy. Maybe you kind of shove off the other player, the other team. Like there's almost like a written code of like there's things you don't do. And he went behind Klay and grabbed him. And dude, Draymond's on the court. Like that is his job. His job is to protect these guys. And like, you know, after I watched it a second time, that was completely normal behavior from Draymond. When you see it from his point of view, that Gobert runs up to Klay and puts his arms around him, like fully, like he just engulfed Klay for like a quick second before Draymond's just in on him. So I don't know. After a second look, I don't hate it too much. There needs to be more. There needs to be more bad blood in the NBA. There needs to be more physicality. Got like, dude, how many times do we see guys getting texts for stare downs, or hey, I'm glad they fixed the hanging on the rim, or just like, you know, getting frustrated. Like there's a passion to this game. It's a physical game. This is a contact sport. This is not, you know, soccer. Like there is contact involved here.
Well, there's as much contact in soccer, but yeah, whatever.
I'm getting your vibe. This is American.
I get what you mean. Okay, I get what you mean.
I should have known my audience there before I said that, right?
You definitely. But no, I kind of agree. It's just Draymond. This is just stupid. Like imagine he just initially grabs him in the headlock and then threw him on the ground, probably wouldn't have got a suspension, and it would have. You
wanted to body slam him?
As in, if he just gets him in the chokehold,
if he just body slammed him right on the ground,
he probably maybe only gets 1 game. I think it was just a prolonged chokehold, and he genuinely looked like he was actively trying to put him to sleep. He wasn't just trying to get him off of Klay. That was the reason why he got the suspension. And that's just what, unfortunately, when you're Draymond Green, yeah, I get it, it's his job, but at the same time, he could have done his job without doing what he did, which is the line you run with Draymond Green. I mean, let's be real here. The reason that he's still in Golden State is because Curry's his boy. Curry really likes him. Curry wants it. Like, imagine Curry didn't take a liking to the way he conducted himself on the court with the ejection and everything. He'd have been gone out of there a while ago. Still a good player, but I think that's a big reason to play. Is that, like, you think about the punch up with Jordan Poole and all that sort of carry on. But it's just, yeah, probably correct. Probably a correct suspension given his history and given what he tried to do. I get your point, but I think it's a fair call from the NBA.
Who is a dirtier player, Dylan Brooks or Draymond Green? Who's a more annoying player?
Draymond. Come on, that's
the only
Draymond
difference
a bit of
is
credit.
rings. The only difference is rings. What I was, I couldn't help but thinking about this. This is where my brain goes. Like in 5 seconds, I'm gone. I can't believe that this is the second time we've had a chokehold with the Timberwolves. Do you remember Karl Anthony Towns getting choked out by Ben Simmons? That's all I could think of when you brought this up. But here's the difference. Cat was smart. He got pinned down. He was getting choked out, and he was tapping out. Do you remember that? He's tapping out Ben Simmons. Gobert didn't tap out. That's a problem. He should have tapped.
Gobert's fault. Okay, yeah, I like
he should have tapped. Draymond would have respected the tap, but he just didn't do it. But 5 games is more than enough. There's so many other situations where he should have been suspended. He got nothing for punching Jordan Poole in the face. Just like a little leave of absence for a little bit. Like, and to your point about like him being there, it's so interesting that like the culture they've created in Golden State, a lot of that is from Draymond Green. Like a lot of the winning culture that they have there is with him. So it's like you take the good and the bad. Like the intensity that he brings will always come up moments like this. I mean, in the last playoff run they had, where they eventually lost to the Raptors, like he was one technical away from being suspended for a full game for like half the playoffs. So it's like he's always done this to himself. He'll always do it, and eventually it's gonna. I think we said that 3 years ago. When is the patience gonna run out?
Yeah, it's more. I guess when Golden State start to not be a contender, that's when it'll just be like, all right, get Draymond out of here. It's all bad. That's as long as you're winning, it doesn't come up as much. But when it gets to a stage, obviously Steph's still there, so maybe that won't happen in his time. But that's the kind of area that I would look at and think that's when it will really start to get questions of how is he still there? Why have they not got rid of him? That sort of way. But it's funny that Gobert came out with that line about how Draymond likes to get ejected when Steph isn't playing. And I wondered, did he actually do his research on that before he said it? It was funny that I think 7 of the last 11 ejections he's had has been when Curry's not playing, which is kind of
he's like, let's get this over with.
Yeah.
1 minute into the game, I'm not playing today.
He knows, man. He knows the words. Ain't got no hope without Steph on the floor. But all right, let's switch it over then. Let's talk your Bulls. Let's talk Zach LaVine. Talks or rumors or whatever leaks have really started to pick up some pace this past week about possibly LaVine getting traded, possibly him only wanting to play for the Bulls, but under a new coach. And I think I've also seen things saying that Kings and the Spurs are his 2 preferred destinations compared to maybe Philly or New York. What do you think about that?
I think there's a lot of reports, and I'll look at it from the point of view of an NBA fan, not a Bulls fan. I'll think about it in terms of like where would it be interesting for him to go, and then we can address that, because he's always been connected to LA since anytime there's a trade rumor, and this is also just the effect, the gravity of the evil empire is anytime there's a star that's coming up on a contract or having some issues, the Lakers are always brought up, right? So make that of what you will. I do think that it's time, and the reason I think that is the Bulls are a dying star. They've been dying for the last 2 years. They've been slowly imploding in on themselves. And the Lonzo Ball thing, we're so far removed from that at this point, and it's just been a slippery slope. You don't see the same connectiveness. And this whole Billy Donovan thing too, I gotta address. Like, I can't blame Billy for the team that he has to coach, and it's not the players. You just have to blame the front office for the personnel that's out there. We don't shoot like a modern team. We don't space floor like a modern team. We try to play through the post with Vooch, and we try to, emphasize the great mid-range shooting from DeRozan. But that MVP form of DeRozan, that was it. It was not a flash in the pan, but you're not going to get a season like that from him again. And all that to say, it's time to move on. And I think everyone in Chicago knows it. The players know it. Like, there's no, when you bring up these trade rumors, there's no like veracity to the responses of like, no, like, we're in this to get. It's like it is what it is. And even Billy Donovan, like, like, everyone's like, it is what it is. Like peel back all the political like type of comments that they make to make it sound great and really dress it up. Like, everybody knows that this is a situation that won't work. I'm okay with LaVine leaving at this point. It's time for a change. Even if it's not the craziest return, like, you just need to hit the reset button. So I haven't heard a lot about Spurs trade. Like, what would that trade look like? I think that would be fantastic for them to get more shooting, but I'm just not sure what would happen there.
Yeah, I guess there'll be a Spurs trade. You have to think would be very much centered around draft picks. You would think, because you're kind of thinking, what are they willing to give up that kind of can equal the value of a LaVine? Like, what do they have that they can give up? It'll be interesting to see what way a package would work there. Because obviously LaVine, he signed his extension last year, right?
Yep. So he's now got, I want to say, 3 years left on this max deal.
So you'd have to think, maybe would Vassell have to be included in the deal, or Johnson? Would one of those guys have to be?
They wouldn't do it. Johnson, maybe.
Would Johnson, one of those guys have to be included? Yeah, I feel like it'd have to be one of them and some draft picks, and maybe obviously there's other guys that be included to fill up make the money work and different things like that. But yeah, but it was just interesting when I saw that I think firstly during the week I saw about how apparently he has no interest in going to New York, which I don't hate, because I think he's not I don't believe he's a guy that really pushed the needle for the Knicks. Not that they're going to get one, but I'd rather them not make a move than to go for a guy that really isn't going to push that needle for us anyway. But yeah, and then after that, seeing that he prefers to either stay with the Bulls under a new head coach or to go to the Kings or the Spurs, I was like, when's the last time an All-Star wanted to go to the Kings or the Spurs? That's a new look.
Yeah, I love that. And just to comment on the Knicks real quick before we talk about the Kings, I really love it as a Bulls fan, because the idea of, because there's some return that you would want to see is a guy like Quickly. If you get a guy like Quickly,
no.
Exactly.
Don't you touch my IQ.
Listen, but dude, he's playing less minutes than he did last year, right? He's playing less minutes. It would cost you Quickly, a guy who's not going to flourish on the Knicks is currently constructed, and Fournier, who you want to get rid of, DiVincenzo, who's playing terribly, and a first round pick that, like, you guys have such a treasure trove of like fake first round picks. I don't even know which real or fake first round pick we'll get. I don't even know how to do the math on all the clauses on half of them, but I think that the bet there is that Quickly's a guy that, two-way player, going to play defense, better defender than LaVine, and with more minutes and more touches, like, really could flourish, and be really cool to see him alongside Kobe White. Kobe White, a guy's turning himself into like a legit NBA player. Like, he is not a lottery star, but he's a guy that you keep on your team. So maybe you try to, and that's what I think this front office would love. They would love the chance to have a quick turnaround as opposed to go into a full rebuild, because the Bulls have never done that. Never have. And thinking about the Kings, like, what, oh man, like the Kings with LaVine, I'm curious how that would look from a defensive perspective, because that's just like going fully in on offense. I mean, they're already there, but he would look so good next to Fox. He would look so good next to him because their 3-point shooting, it can be up and down at times. Because I mean, Herter, when Herter's really not consistent, like you're relying on a lot of pull-up threes from Fox, you're relying on a lot of pull-up threes from Monk, you're hoping their new guy from Europe is hitting, and it's not always there. And I think Herter's lost a little bit of gravity on his shooting. I feel like guys are a little bit more content to go under those screens. And yes, LaVine's in a little bit of a slump right now, but he would immediately be the most dynamic perimeter shooter for them. And they don't have that right now. That would be a really cool fit, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the Kings were willing to pull off a move like that and really just completely go away from their defense, and then you'd really start to think, is that gonna change things for them? Is that gonna push them towards winning more, or is it gonna just keep them as a good a good regular season team and a bad playoff team? It'd be interesting to see how that one would work out, because you'd have to think they'd probably have to give up a couple of their defensive pieces, the very few that they do have in any sort of deal there. So it'd be interesting to see, are the Kings, if the Kings heard, okay, LaVine wants to come to Sacramento, offer a package, it'd be interesting to see if they would go for it.
Yeah, I think that's less realistic than a couple others. I have a few here, and the one I'm really interested in for both sides is the Raptors. So the Raptors are, I mean, who you have to think about, like what puzzle piece does he solve? And I think getting LaVine into Toronto fixes their perimeter creation, fixes having another guy who can, he's better than anyone on that team right now in terms of simple creation, like simple pick and roll, simple drive and kick, and is going to be, for the most part, responsible with the ball, better than he was before. If you get GTJ, Thad, OPJ, and a couple of first rounders, I think the Bulls are happy with that. Bulls are happy with 2 first-round picks. I think if 2 first-round picks come out of this, then they're going to be pretty happy, especially with a team like the Raptors. And that really could get this team humming. I think the Raptors have been a team, I'm just waiting for them to get another piece in there or trade, just have something to change the formula a little bit that could really unlock them. The spacing is just bad there. And the same thing, I think, also for the Magic. I just don't want to mention the Magic because it's just crazy. It would be purely out of pride that I could not bear to see them get LaVine. They already, the nights I've spent thinking about having Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr. on this team instead of Vooch just haunts me. It absolutely haunts me. And just thinking about how good they would be having a really good perimeter guy like LaVine, they would be another team too that gets unlocked. Both the Raptors and Magic, their wing stars are just dealing with no spacing at all. And when things start to open up for them, it would be awesome. I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to watch another Magic game ever.
I think the Raptors would definitely be an interesting one. That's one I'd really like to see. Imagine add a legitimate, proven multi-level scorer like LaVine to the Scotty Barnes Siakam led team that could lead them down to a better path, and even a path that means Siakam ends up staying in Toronto. A move for Zach LaVine could actually really unlock that team and get them back on the right path from a team that we kind of believe going into this year didn't really know what direction they were going in, and they're likely going to blow it up. But I think yeah, I like that one. The Raptors, that would definitely be an interesting one. I think that'd be a really good fit. As a fan of Zach LaVine and as a Chicago Bulls fan, where do you think you'd like to see him end up while also getting a realistic probable package?
I was just about to ask you a question, so you tell me. If you are the Pistons, and within the context of Jaden Ivey having kind of a weird role this year, if you really believe in Cade, and you really just need another like perimeter guy next to him, like another guy who can score and really space things out for him. Would you give up Ivy for Zach LaVine?
I mean, I would probably say yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. I think any conservative fans would be like, no, like trust the process. He's a young guy, like no. But I think if you're really into the idea of Cade like blossoming now, and them having a little bit more of a functional offense, especially now with Asar Thompson, like what Asar Thompson has done there, like I don't know where he'll develop offensively, but dude, this guy is like insane. One of the most insane rookies. We got to talk more about his defense at some other point. But Jaden Ivey's kind of seems a little bit extra right now. As a Bulls fan, if we could get a guy like that, like I'm excited if we could get a guy like quickly. If we can get a guy like Ivy, who's maybe another team's not really fully invested in their young guy yet, and LaVine brings them something that they're willing to part with, that would be ideal. That'd be ideal. I'm not into the idea of a first round pick because I think that LaVine's going to help. Any team who's going to be trading for LaVine is going to probably be pretty good. It's not going to be a lottery team. It's going to be a team that's going to get better because they're convinced that they can really improve from this sort of situation. So if you can get a guy like Ivy, that's like ideal. If you can get a guy like Quickly, that's solid, and maybe Quickly really does like shock the world and he becomes a LaVine-esque player with defense. That's kind of what I think I'd be looking for.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And before we move on from the Bulls, one line: if they were looking at moving and possibly going into some sort of rebuild, do they need to get rid of Patrick Williams?
Why? What's the point? For
like,
what?
No, I'm asking.
What would his trade return be right now? If I called the Knicks right now, I was like, hey, like you like Patrick Williams, what would you give up for him?
I'm talking including him in a package with LaVine more so. That's what I would be talking about. Like, do they want to pay Patrick Williams that big money?
They wouldn't. But you know what it'll go down to? It'll be like, okay, go find that on the open market. Go find that on the open market. And you won't. And I guess like just for a full reset for a full reset's sake doesn't seem worth it. Like why not let him like turn the ball over 5 times a game and just maybe Patrick Williams is the one guy who needs to play on a really bad team. You have a lot of guys who play on bad teams and they don't know how to really play like organized competitive basketball. Maybe
he already
needs
is.
to play
Okay.
in a bad no, like a really bad like yeah, this is the worst type of team is a mediocre / bad team. Like he needs to play on a tanking team. He needs to get the ball and shoot like 15 times a game. He needs a little more Jordan Poole in him, and we need to create a Jordan Poole environment for Patrick Williams. That's what we need to do.
Okay.
So no, I'm not sending him off for an extra second round pick. Like,
okay. I know you're going to always stand by your boy Patrick Williams, no matter how bad he is. But yeah,
let me clarify that. I if we want to get into Patrick Williams, this was the beginning of the season. I said it. I'm pretty sure I said it. Like the first couple months of the season will tell me who he's going to be for the rest of his career. And this is it. I think that he's demonstrated that he will be like a Tory credible player if this is his situation. So like given the current system, given everything, given all the babying and all the second chances, third chances, like this is who Patrick Williams is. And I'm not out. Like he's a basketball player. He could be a good rotation, but like he's not gonna. Please don't ever go back and listen to my hot Patrick Williams takes. Those are far behind.
That never happened. Yeah. Such a limitation and that sort of stuff. Yeah. Of course. Okay, let's go around the league then. Miami Heat, 7 straight wins. What do you think about this? Is it real or is it fake? Are they just kind of riding the form of Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson at the moment? I think Bam's leading the team in points, rebounds, steals, blocks, field goal percentage. The only player on the team shooting above 50%. Robinson's averaging over 23 points per game over the last 3. He's had 18 plus in 4 of their 7 wins. They seem to have found another diamond in the rough in Jamie Jaquez, or however you say his name, typical Miami Heat. What sort of vibe do you get off the Heat at the moment? Like 7 straight wins, they're the form team, arguably in the league at the moment. It just feels like they're in a good spot, and I think it'll probably level out soon. Not to say they'll do badly, but they're not gonna. I think we'll see a gap start to develop between the Bucks and the Celtics, and possibly even the 76ers as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. They're never a regular season team. They're never going to, go full throttle. You're going to see Jimmy Butler take some time. But for them to be this successful early in the season, like, that's really good. And to see Bam Adebayo be so aggressive offensively, amazing. To see Jaquez Jr., like, I watched him in college, and he gave the vibe of a guy who's like so good in college. He's so crafty, uses his size well in like a post-up game for like a wing. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, maybe we'll play like Euro. Dude, he's a really good player. He's a really good player. And like the way he scores too, it's not your typical rookie who's just using his athleticism or quick shot. Like, he's very interesting. He didn't strike me as a guy who would be a traditional Miami Heat guy. But again, it always comes back to Spo. Like, every time we talk about the Heat, it just always comes back to Spo. It's really cool to see like a guy like him with a unique skill set, and Spo just finds a way to make him good and empower him in a certain way. I think this is real because the Miami Heat are always going to find a way, even for them to go on this winning streak, them to always be good on defense, and big ups to Duncan Robinson. Man, like, it has to feel good. Like, he took a backseat last year, and I loved the Duncan Robinson minutes that he had last year, because when he would get a run, he wouldn't always just be shooting. Like, he would try to get to the basket, he would try to do other things, he would try to really expand his game, because Max Strus is crashing the boards, Max Strus is cutting the basket, Max Strus is also like banging threes, Gabe Vincent is doing a lot. So it didn't make sense for him to get minutes, but Duncan Robinson has made a return and is still just off in it. And I think that's impressive for a guy to again, always come back to youth culture, comes back to that, where these guys are always ready when their name is called. And now that he is the designated perimeter shooter and he needs to take these shots, he's doing it. There's no reason that this is fluky. Everyone slots in, does their job, does it right. They got another gem. I'm surprised it's not Jovic, which is that was the guy, just the kind of mold of player that he was. I thought he would be a little more impressive, but
give it time.
It's cool to see.
Give it time. Yeah, no, the big difference maker for them, I think Duncan Robinson getting back to being that 15-point per game scorer, legit sharpshooter for them is so huge, and really does make that difference. But definitely on a interesting run of form. I know they play the Knicks next Friday. I wouldn't mind if we were the team to end their winning streak if it goes that long. Another guy in hot form, Tyrese Haliburton. Last 2 games, 58 points, 32 assists, 0 turnovers. This guy is in outrageous form. No one's ever done that over a 2-game span. The Pacers ended the 76ers great winning run the other night. He had 33, 7 boards, 15 assists, made 7 3-pointers. When that guy is on, he is legit superstar.
So we looked this up, and you just knew your basketball history at the top of your head. Because what is he averaging now? 24.7 points, 12.5 assists. And the pace that he's on, like, this doesn't feel fluky. Like, he just really commands the offense. Everything flows through him, and his vision is he's one of the most fun passers in the NBA. The no looks, hitting from every angle, like skip passes everywhere. And the last person to average 24 and 12 is Magic Johnson. You knew it. You called it. And that has to give you some perspective for how difficult it is to score at this rate and to be so efficient at conducting an offense, and also how he just avoids turnovers. He's an efficient scorer. I have kind of set a standard in my mind, because I feel like he's such a good player that maybe the defense will come along. Because the Pacers, that's the one thing that's just holding the Pacers back, and it will continue to. But unbelievable. Where is he right now? Is he the best point guard in the league?
On form in terms of especially traditional, yeah.
Not even just that. Like he's averaging maybe 25 points a game.
Yeah. I mean,
He's a
like,
great
yeah,
three-point
silly.
shooter.
And
Getting in the basket.
despite having the ugliest shot of all time, he's still shooting above 40% from three too.
Yeah. Can you? Oh, man, I can't believe I'm doing this myself. You asked me how I'm doing with the Bulls recently, but I sometimes think about it. The front office really wanted, really wanted Tyrese Haliburton, but it was kind of mixed, and we passed on him for. Yeah, we won't have to get into that. That's fine. All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Everything
Finishing out our look around the league. Marcus Smart is now going to be out for multiple weeks. Is that officially bye-bye to Memphis? Time to tank?
Tank season. Let's go. Tank season. It's time. It's time. And
yeah,
I mean,
I
it
think
could be addition by subtraction. Well, let's see some more minutes.
Surely Kenny Lofton's getting in there now. Like, surely they
Put
throw
him
him
at
out
the
there.
point.
Yeah.
Put him at the point. He's got the handles. This guy's an inside out big, perimeter big. I think we talked about this last time, and I don't know how the Grizzlies in the play-in would be interesting for sure. It's just gonna be really hard. There's too many good teams in the West.
I mean, what are they? They're already now 3-10 currently, so like that's going to be really. I know the Lakers came back from 2-10 last year, but I think this is a very different situation, and there's still going to be a bit of time before they're even close to being back to their full complement. So yeah, I think this is just to take the L on the season. Grizzlies come back again next year and be ready to put on a good run. Clippers.
The true irony of it, though, is that the team that will be in, I think, kind of this position that they would want to be near the end of the season will be the Rockets. Will be Dillon Brooks and the Rockets, and the Rockets look good. And speaking on the Clippers, who defeated them last night, finally had some semblance of a functional offense against a competitive Houston defense. Like the Houston defense is still good. Did they turn the ship?
I mean,
they show some signs of life.
Like Russ goes to the bench and they finally win. I mean, who could have seen that coming? And just the fact that it's, of course, a signature step back three from Harden to ice the game as well. That just that felt like it in everyone's mind. It just kind of came all together. It's like, oh, okay, they're gonna be good now. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there was a bit of something there. I think the win was always likely to come. Good job on them. Let's see if they can improve on it now, or if it just kind of they continue to be kind of somewhat good, somewhat bad. I mean, it's the flow of the team obviously still isn't there. There's still gonna be growing pain issues. It's all about being ready to go for the playoffs for this team, but they're gonna have to pick up some wins if they're gonna be really able to challenge for the top six and not have to go through the play-in.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I saw that little bit of talking down on the Rockets. This is a real win. I think that's a legit win against the Rockets, the team that's competitive. I'll give it to them, and they will still have their work cut out for them, though. You're right. They need to show that they can do this over the long term. I did like, though, the spacing looks fine out there. And there's moments where, your turn, my turn doesn't always work, but if you can create a good flow between the stars, I think that Paul George got shots that he was comfortable with. Kawhi Leonard got a lot of great looks from mid-range against mismatches that he was comfortable with, really hunting VanVleet, and the spacing was there for him to do it without getting doubled the whole game. There was good movement from Harden, and Harden only took 11 shots, made 8 of them. That's huge. If Harden can take more catch and shoot threes, if he can be a little more patient with his offense, and he can just kind of tone it down a little bit, I think that you'd rather have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard create more, and James Harden focus a little bit more on what he's truly, truly best at. His best talent is creating for others.
Yeah, he had a few great passes down the stretch of that game as they were to claw back the team. He had some really elite passes.
Yeah, and I think that this formula here is sustainable. Harden was a team best, plus 21. And I don't think it was, necessarily Russ goes now 2 of 9 off the bench, but I think that Russ does bring a lot more energy to the bench, and I think you're right. Like you couldn't bring Harden off the bench. Like that just wouldn't work out. And I think Russ takes it so well. Really, he's professional about it, and I think he probably knew. Like when Harden came, like I think everybody knew it was coming.
He
but
took it on himself. Didn't wait to get told that's the way that it is, which is you just gotta respect that. We've got to respect the professionalism, the commitment to trying to get the best out of this team. I'll say one thing that's funny. My brother's in town for the week, and he had a bet on last night. He had a double. He had Markkanen under 23.5 points, which came through, and he needed Paul George to have over 24.5. Paul George had 13 points in the first quarter, and he didn't, and he finished with just 23. He needed one more basket out of him.
Dude, Paul George he's still so streaky. He needs to find his shot a little bit, and I think that'll come. The adjustment period for these guys is going to be really hard, and a win against the Rockets does mean something, at least this season. But man, I gotta talk about Alperen Sengun if we're even just thinking about this for a second.
Nope.
Since we're going around the league, we already talked about the Rockets. We won't go too far into it, but dude, like Sengun looks different, man. Like the more and more you watch him, there's something that you notice about players once they figure themselves out, and once they're being given the confidence from their coach that they are a big part of the system and that they can just be aggressive, like be free to be aggressive. Alperen Sengun is playing free. Like the way that he is posting up anybody, the way that he's not deterred. Like he got stuffed by Zubats on one play, and he just kept going back. Like the Rockets were running so much good offense through him in the pick and roll, so much good offense from him in the post and in and out, and he just looks great, man. I mean, 23 points last night, and he looked like the best big on the floor. Again, it's Zubats, but he's going up against a good big Clippers team, and even though he's a little bit undersized, like he makes himself big. Even though he's a little bit slow, sometimes he just really finds his angles well, and he looks good this season, man. I'm really curious, like how much better he'll get over the seasons, like if he's like a Vooch level talent player, or if he's got more in him, like how many all-star games. He'll be an all-star at least one game, but I just continue to be in awe of his game, given like where he started out at. It's crazy.
Yeah, and he continues to be a steady contributor to my fantasy team as well, which I can't say for a lot of other people. All right, what about the weekly Wemby check-in? Since we last spoke, he had a couple of big games. Unfortunately, they all came in losses. The Spurs are on a bit of a slide at the moment, but it had a big 29-9, 4 assists, 4 block game against the Timberwolves. He went for 27-9 against the Kings last night. Of course, both him and Chet had very disappointing games in that blowout win for OKC during the week, which was really disappointing. But I guess Chet can take the W there, considering his team was on the winning side. But a couple of big games from Wemby, but unfortunately, it's not having the impact on winning.
Yeah, the 3-point shooting too is going to take some time. 3-point shooting is going to take some time, and it's the type of shots he takes too, off the dribble, off the catch, like movement shooting. Like he doesn't always take easy shots, even though it looks all easy for him. But I'm curious over the course of his career, like how that will go. He also had poor shooting back when he played in France, but again, he's young. And will this be like a kind of a Luka conversation? Like, oh, if only he starts hitting those threes. But that's one thing. If he was just shooting like 35%, like a low average, like he would be averaging, I'd do the math for me, like he'd be doing over 20 points a game. But weekly check-in for Wemby, he's still not average. He's still not a regular rookie.
Still not human.
Do you still need to enforce that?
Yes, but, of course, not human.
The Spurs are not catching up, and I think we did go a little crazy predicting anything out of them. They're now on a 7-game slide, and in the West,
I think you were going a bit crazier than me. As I said, Wemby would have to be one of the greatest rookies since Jordan. Sochan would really have to take that step up the cell as well. We just haven't really seen it at all. normal, a pretty standard season for a team that just got the number one pick, I guess is probably a fair way to describe the Spurs. But I guess with all the hype around Wemby, we had to expect a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. 27 points against the Kings. I guess you can't be too impressed with that. 8 points against the Thunder, where, you know, Chet is the only guy who's really gonna to stop him. 18 points against the Heat. I mean, that's all you'd be able to figure it out. But Bam's too small. Who's defending him? Then I think the one really impressive performance you got to talk about is the nearly scoring 30 points against the best team in basketball and just making Gobert look like he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
That's again, like, you want to see like little flashes here and there where you're just like, oh, and the thing, like he was just the best player on the floor. And to do that against the Timberwolves, even though they lose, like, the formula is there. So yeah, no. I guess maybe Gobert's not the guy to defend him. Maybe Wemby's just too comfortable. You think about all the times that they played against each other. But
Gobert was just being nice, you know. He wanted to do that for his. What did he say? He's like a proud dad when he sees him. So he wanted to do right by his son there, you know. Yeah. Let's finish up then with a bit of conversations about contract, conversations about extension. Some way too early narratives building around a few key guys who become extension eligible next summer. Gonna look at three guys: Tyrese Maxey, Klay Thompson, and Josh Giddey. All different situations, all of different points in their career. Let's start off with Maxey. He will be eligible for a 5-year, $216 million contract next year, I believe.
Oh yeah, he's getting that.
Definitely getting that, I think.
Oh, that's like, can you think of any reason why that wouldn't even, like, day one, like this? It would be a respect thing. It would be a respect thing that day one, they just extend. It doesn't even matter like what other deals you can, like, you sign him. He walks into that room 9 a.m. He signs it. Boom, done. Like, from what he's shown here.
I mean, look at his averages. He's averaging at the moment 27, 5, and 7 on 48, 43, 95 shooting splits. Like, that's pretty ridiculous. Even if that drops down to a more realistic sort of area and he's like 23, 4, and 5 and like 46, 40, 90, like that's pretty realistic and doable for him this year, and still only 23 years old. So I think, yeah, no doubt that max extension is coming next year. Yeah, I think
7th in scoring, 11 assists. Like, who else?
Yeah, that's fair. Klay Thompson, his contract is up next year. Obviously, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a 4-time champion, one of the greatest 3-point shooters ever, a Warriors legend. How much is that going to stand to him when it comes to getting a contract offer next year? Because at the moment, he's averaging sub 14 points, which would be the lowest since his rookie year. Mm-hmm. He's shooting just over 40% from the field. He's shooting under 33% from 3. I mean, if those numbers don't take a drastic jump, I mean, I don't see him getting anything more than like a respect offer from the Warriors, maybe like 2 years, 15 million or something like that. But I guess he'd probably be hoping that he's getting his last big payday. I just don't know if it's going to come.
It's going to be really, it's going to be a really tough year, and it's a good thing that you know, there's new GM management, so now you can kind of look at things a little bit fresh. But it's also about ownership. It's also about the franchise, and it's about, you know, Steph. What does Steph want? You know, Steph doesn't want to play with, you know, trying to figure out if Moody is the best thing moving forward. Then are you going to do that? Because I think that there's no reason to keep him around if he's going to play like this. From a purely basketball perspective, defensively, he's lost his step. He can't get to the basket anymore. And what he can do is take sidestep mid-rangers, take pull out like really inefficient shots. And that's why he's struggling. He's not able to create separation. He's just not physically able to do that right now. He's best in probably like a bench situation. And that's not even how, like, Klay Thompson's such an amazing player. And I think, imagine how he would be in a bench role. But you're not going to pay him. You can't pay him max money. Mm-hmm. What do you decide to do with Steph Curry in his age 35 season? He's still averaging what he's averaging, 31 points a game. Still putting in 32. 33, 35-minute games. Like, he's still able to play. Like, why would you continue to hold him down with that? And this is going to be a really interesting conversation near the end of the season. Right now, it's too early to panic about anything, especially when it's the Warriors, but they have to make a major change. They really do. And Klay Thompson, it's going to begin with that. They can't lock themselves in on something.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely fair. What about Josh Giddey then? This is a really interesting one. Kind of the first one of the OKC group to be eligible for an extension. He's obviously still signed with the team through the 24-25 season, but I believe he becomes eligible for an extension next summer. At the moment, his numbers are down across the board compared to last year. He's averaging 13, 6, and 5 on 45, 29 shooting splits. Last year, he was up at 17, 8, and 6 on 48, 33 splits. Do you think the OKC Thunder will hold off on him, considering they have got the likes of Chet coming up in a few years, Jalen Williams, SGA has been paid, and I think he's eligible in another couple of years as well. Is Giddey the guy that could end up falling by the wayside of this young core of OKC?
I don't think it's a wayside. I don't know. We don't know what these guys' priorities are. Some guys, it's a priority to get paid. Mm-hmm. It's his priority to get paid. Maybe there's another team that will pay him. But I think what he's showcased is that he makes his team better with what his activity on the board, his activity as a passer. He's such an amazingly effective connecting piece. The shooting still hasn't really come along, and we're not sure if it will, just given his form. But he's not a guy that I think they want to part with, and he's not a guy they're ready to part with because he's such a smart player. Maybe his future is being kind of a veteran smart player for another team and being more of a supportive piece. But why can't he do that in OKC? Maybe that's something that he's willing to do, because Jalen Williams is really, what Jalen wants to continue to do is being a primary playmaker will always take away from Giddey. So if Giddey doesn't want to be like kind of the third guy, third and a half guy, depending on where Chet develops into, then he doesn't have to. And I don't think he would stick around for it, because OKC, with the rules now, they can't have 3 rookie max. I don't think they have 3 max extensions. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to choose. And Jalen Williams, maybe he takes a sub max contract, but he's been looking still really good, still developing well. Giddey obviously won't have that. I don't think he would demand it. I don't know. He's what ballpark? He's like a 20 per year kind of guy. 25 per year kind of guy.
Like I like would he get like a 4-year $100 million? Would that be a deal that's realistic, you think?
I think he would want something in. He would probably be looking at what Vassell got and be thinking about something like that. Yeah, but I don't think they could. I don't think they could afford it. So they probably wait another year. If he gets his shooting, I think that's the difference here. If he is a guy that can space the floor better, then that changes everything drastically.
Oh, he's a jump shot away from being Supermax. That's. I don't think there's a doubt in that. I think it's just the fact that we haven't seen it.
Yeah, that is literally the one thing. Like because you can accept his he's not going to be an elite defender, but with his IQ, with his size, what he can do to just really up the movement on offense. Like it's so organic on the floor with the Thunder, and that's what you'd want to see continue to grow. But a jump shot away for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would sign him to a max. It would just be impossible. Chet is the future of that front court. You can't jeopardize that. Shea, Jalen Williams, and Chet, like you need that. Unfortunately, that to be the priority for them, not him. Yeah. I think that's fair, but that's going to do it for today's episode. A few things there just to keep your eye on across the season and next summer. But my thanks to Chris for joining me, and thank you all so much for listening. Remember, you like what you're hearing, you want to follow us on socials, we are everywhere at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment. Peace out.